The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Easy Money, New England.
Oh, can somebody help us here?
We can, because we are real estate and mortgage professionals.
Where you go?
It says come in and browse.
That's right. Come on in, listen up and learn.
How long do you intend to browse?
In a short period of time, our panel will teach you some tricks that might make your house buying easier.
You don't ask her how long she intends to browse.
You might not be looking for a mortgage today, but we'll get you ready.
You don't look like browsers.
Are you looking?
No, what do browsers look like?
Yeah, maybe I'm half browse.
On his father's side.
This is Easy Money, New England,
Let's show the lady we're browse.
with your host, Brian D'Amico.
Look at us, we're browse. One more word out of you and he gets it, all right? Come on.
Hello and welcome to another edition of our show of Easy Money New England, where every week we bring you money-making opportunities or money-saving tips, all in the areas around real estate and finance. And today we're very excited to have on our show Damion Lupo. So who is Damion? He's an American sensei, a Yokido founder, a fifth-degree black belt. So we're going to make sure we don't get him mad.
We'll be very kind to him.
Yes. Financial mentor to Transformation Nation, a best-selling author in personal finance, rewriting the rules and plan for retirement. He's written 9 books currently. His mission is really 1 million financially free, a new 1% in America. He believes you have a right to live free from the financial shackles of uncertainty and bondage that's trapped most of our society by a system of corruption and cronyism. I have to agree with you there. I believe it is. He believes that it's time for honesty, power, and freedom. He also believes every human has a life of freedom and joy awaiting once it breaks free from the confusion and chaos of financial illiteracy. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Damion to our show.
Hey, Brian, it's good to be here, man. Nice to see you.
Yeah, no, great setup. And, I remember looking back that I was really looking at your website and really excited that you were coming on the show because some of the things that you say here and some of the things that you do, very inspiring and love to get to know you more. So, what can you tell us about, kind of your background and where you came from here to there? And I know that you have some great stories about your past.
Well, I think it's funny. The past becomes so normalized and our lives become normalized. We have this cognitive bias where it's towards normalcy, and we go, well, that's just normal for me. So I hear these things and I go, huh, that's interesting. Hasn't everybody done the same kind of stuff? And I guess not. The difference I think in my past was I wasn't willing to listen to people tell me this is how things have to be because they've always been that way. I just pushed and blew past those beliefs. Like when my parents told me when I was 11, we don't have money for Nintendo. I said, well, fine, I'll go basically start a game company. And I hired them to drive me around to buy and sell Nintendo games so I could play games.
I love Nintendo, by the way. That was a great game.
It's funny because I think when we are struggling, it's because we're not looking to solve problems. If we look outside of our own life, there's a problem to be solved. And I got thrown out of college. That was part of my experience too, because I put the bookstore out of business because I thought they were ripping everybody off. And I said, this is bad, I can do better. And I keep doing that. And I think if we will all find those things that are problematic and then go try to solve them with something that's for a lot of people, we take this money problem and we turn it into a too much money problem. So that's kind of what I've done in the past, and it's led to a lot of stories and a lot of chaos and a lot of excitement.
We might have that in common. That you say you got kicked out of college. I say that they just asked me to leave.
Yeah, that's what they would say. They said, well, we asked him to leave, and they basically said, shut down or we're kicking you out. And I said, I'll be out in 3 days, and that's how long it took me to finish up the business and pay for school.
Yeah, I just kind of lived there for a while, but it was quite the experience. But Damion, can you talk a little bit about in your past you were worth a tremendous amount of money, and then 2008 happened. I think we can all kind of relate. Well, like you said, not everyone can relate to that, right? There's only a piece of did everyone do this? But I know that it was a very difficult time, and I'd love to know how you went from starting over basically.
Well, here's the thing that I found in that whole process, and a lot of people that are listening are thinking about real estate. They're thinking about how they're going to make money in the markets, and the markets are on fire. I mean, there's so much money being made and thrown around right now. When I was doing my real estate stuff, I went to a seminar and I learned what they were telling you. I did it. I didn't actually challenge it. I just said, oh, that sounds cool. I can go do that. I can go buy 10,000 houses this month. Sounds good. So I would just do it. The problem I had, and I think the problem a lot of people have, is it's just about the money. I mean, needs to be the side effect to where you're doing something for a deeper reason, because even if you get the money, and you can, because I mean, I bought my first house with a credit card. I mean, you can do this. There's just nothing other than you holding you back. The problem is if you just have the money and that's your entire identity, if there's a blip, and there's going to be a blip, it's a cyclical process of wealth. You're going to be in trouble when you realize your net worth has gone down and your self-worth disappears like mine did. And that's the danger in not having something that you're living for or focusing on. So when you go up to 20 million and then you go down to negative 5 million, that's a roller coaster that can be deadly. And that's what I'm hoping people will take out of this, that you've got to have something deeper that's driving you than just more zeros on your balance sheet.
And what is driving you?
Over a couple of years, I asked one question, and it was, what is true? And I did that because I needed to figure out who the heck I was. And what I realized was I'm a teacher, and there's a fundamental drive for me to help people get out of this financial bondage they're in. And it doesn't matter if you're making $50,000 a year or $5 million. I've seen both. If you don't have something if there's not a freedom around your confidence to create, I don't care how much cash or cash flow you have. My mission is to free 1 million people, because that creates a ripple effect for the entire society, and it's more important than money. It doesn't mean money isn't important. It means that money is going to be a side effect of that mission. I'm not sitting there thinking, how can I collect paper with dead presidents on it? Right. That's a bad mission.
Now, do you help people develop, basically their why, why they do what they do? I mean, do you take someone and kind of go through a course with them of kind of help them become who they want to become?
Well, I think Simon Sinek does a good job in the book Why.
Yeah.
He's better than I am on that. What I do is I dissect what we're doing and who we are, and then figure out if that's really what we want to make our life all about. We do that with 3 things. We look at people's cash, their credit, and their calendar. And once that happens and you get really clear on the truth, like that question we come back to, what is true? Well, if you look at those 3 things, you get really clear on who you are and what's driving you, your values, behaviors. And once we do that, we can say, okay, do you want to continue with this? Because here's where we're going to end up a year, 5, 20 years down the road. And people can start adjusting those things. So we dig into the numbers. So this isn't just a rah-rah. This is not just let's dream up a big, cool life. It's really understanding who we are based on our behaviors, which the numbers tell us the truth about.
Very interesting. So I also read that you 10 times growth is really a big driver, right? So if you take someone, you say, all right, here's your cash, here's your credit, here's your calendar, and you need to start thinking that you're going to be 10 times the person you are today, or 10 times the profitability. I mean, what do you measure that 10 times on?
So it's really everything. It's one of the things that I've done. I think, well, all of us are doing. We have an amount of time that we spend with a core group of people, and we become like them. We're not generally around people that are all 10xing their life. So we're just going to kind of continue the status quo. And what I challenge people to do is to think of their lives 10 times better in every way. I'm talking about financially. I'm talking about health-wise. I'm talking about their integrity and their ethics. And so it's not that you need to have $1 million a year in income because you have 100,000. The reason that you do this is because it forces you to look into the future versus hanging on and attaching to the past. Because we'll try to defend what we've done in the past, making the same or a little bit more, 10% more. We always look to the past to say, well, what worked? Let's keep doing that. Let's add a little bit more juice and everything will be good. We're playing defense versus saying, if I'm going to 10x my income or my financial life, if we start with that, I have to do something so different. I've got to look to the future, and I can't use my past anymore because it won't work. I have to disrupt myself before somebody else does. That's why we think 10x.
Very interesting. So I'm a strategic coach guy, Dan Sullivan, and they all talk about 10 times growth, and it's, you can't, what got you here isn't going to get you there, right? So you
Absolutely.
So I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so if I'm listening to the show right now, I'm driving around or I'm on my treadmill or something like that, and everything's kind of resonating with me. How do what do I do to get involved with Damion Lupo? Like, how do I, we like what we're hearing. How do we get involved, and how do we learn more?
Well, the thing that I've done over the years is I'll take something that's complex or it's confusing and I boil it down and simplify it. I think that's one of the opposites. What I do that's opposite of, say, Wall Street. Wall Street complicates the crap out of everything, and then they basically look at you and say, "You're too stupid to understand. Give us all your money, and we'll take care of it." And they'll just fee you to death. So I've said, well, I have a different idea, and that is that you're smart enough to do your stuff, and let me teach you how to take control of your money. So one of the ways that I do that is I show people how to take control of their retirement money, their IRAs, 401ks, so that they are actually holding it. And once that happens, and I wrote a book on this because I wanted people to understand there was a different option than just handing over control. It's about the self-responsibility shift. And so in any way, in any part of people's lives, how they get started is becoming self-responsible. And so I wrote these books on that, like the guide to the QRP, so that people see that there's another option. And that's how they start. You start by educating yourself, not necessarily by saying, I'm going to be a real estate gazillionaire. You got to educate yourself on that. I mean, you have no idea what's out there. You got to start, building that muscle.
So let's talk about that guide to QRP. Is that qualified retirement plan or?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's a qualified retirement plan. And for those of you that have no idea what we're talking about, it's the code that created the 401k back in the 70s. It's been around a long time. The rules changed about 15 years ago to where you could actually have your own plan for yourself. And we've set it up. We've built these things a little differently so that we took the friction out of it. We took all of the need for other people getting in your way, and it's really changed the game. It actually pisses people off once they find out about it, because at first they go, "This can't be right," and then they realize it is. And they go, "Why didn't I know about this 10 years ago?" So it's kind of funny to see that experience with people because it's very consistent.
So, a qualified retirement plan, is that like you can make your retirement more self-directed, like a self-directed IRA where you can buy real estate with it or do whatever you want with that retirement plan, where most people just say, oh, some of my check goes in there?
Yeah, it's similar and it's totally different. The way I describe the QRP and the way that we create these is it's an IRA on steroids, and it's the financial Ferrari of retirement plans. Because with an IRA, if you think about IRAs, most people go, yeah, I can put $5,500 a year into this thing and I can buy some real estate. Well, with a QRP, you can put $55,000 a year into this thing and take that off your taxes. And you can take that and you can go buy real estate as an example and have leverage, meaning you can have debt. With an IRA, you get taxed like crazy. Like a third of your profits are basically going to go away to the federal government inside the IRA. With the QRP, that doesn't happen. And if you just totally lost me with what I was saying, don't worry about it. The point of that was that the QRP is literally 10 times better than the IRA, especially when you start thinking about real estate.
This is very interesting to me personally. I mean, I definitely want to get involved on this. I'm going to get your book after the show for sure. But, what is some of the, I mean, how many people have you taught this QRP strategy, and have they, what are some of the results people are getting?
Well, the big thing that's happening is people are exiting the Wall Street roller coaster. And something that I heard years ago, I mean, we've worked with thousands of people that have control of their money now. And what we found was that people stopped really caring about what they saw on CNBC, on the Bubblehead network. They didn't care what the green arrow or the red arrow did. Like the markets at the end of the day, when they say, oh, the Dow is up by 412 points or it's down by 250, those arrows no longer impact people's psychology, and they're no longer afraid or excited going through this emotional, chaotic mess at the end of the day because they're not on that roller coaster anymore. That's the biggest shift. It creates this peace so people aren't just in fear of what the markets are doing every day.
Well, I'm definitely one of those people. I'm very fearful when I see the market going down.
It's a crazy space to be in, and we're basically programmed that you do whatever you do for work, and then you basically hand your money to this system, and for the most part, you are sitting there hoping. So, I mean, if you think it's a good idea to smoke a bunch of hopium for like the next 20 years, and then you're going to wake up and it's all going to be good, you're not going to be rich. You're going to be old. I
mean, you never really saw this until 2008, 2009 reared its ugly head, and it was ugly. I mean, I saw every asset class get hit tremendously, right? So if this was to happen again, maybe it won't happen to that extent, hopefully, but if it was to happen again, what are some of the strategies that, are you buying put options and buying that stocks go down? Are you totally out of the market at that point?
Well, this will happen again. My personal opinion is that it's going to be more severe than last time because we've got bigger derivative exposure. We've got a lot more juice in the system. There's trillions of extra dollars that are flopping around in the system, and they're chasing assets, which is crushing yield. There's a lot of problems that are baked into the system, even though we've got this huge boom right now because of the tax cut bill that's driving a lot of activity. The way that I look at this to survive this thing is to understand that when these things cycle, there are certain things that work. And one of those things is assets that are producing cash flow, like residential rental property. And one of the questions is, what's not being served right now? What's going to be recession proof? My opinion, millennials are a huge driving force, and they want a different type of housing. And so if you look at what they want small spaces that are connected to other people. They want experiences. That kind of housing is in short supply. So if you think about that's one thing. People are never going to stop collecting stuff. You see storage units popping up all over the place. Those are recession proof. People are attached to their crap. And so if you think about these cycles and say, well, what doesn't change in a cycle? Some of these things don't. And that way you don't worry about when the Fed raises rates like they did just recently, and they're going to continue to do in 2018. You stop being attached to those things that are happening. You go, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, it's part of the cycle. Instead of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? The rates just went up and my property went down in value. And you realize you're a speculator. You're not really an investor, and you have no freedom.
So it's really all about cash flow. Cash flow is king, recession proof. For example, storage units. I put more stuff in a storage unit than I realized I was paying more monthly rent than what my stuff was worth. I got to get out of that.
And then you forget what's in there, and then you go, well, I can't just let it go because I might have something valuable. And then 10 years go by, and you go into the thing, and you go, what is all this crap? I spent how much? $12,000 for all this stuff to be sitting here?
I love the Storage Wars, the show, though. They get some good stuff through the years.
None of my stuff.
None
of it's any good. I live in a van by the river, for crying out loud.
What the thing about the cash flow, and I think there's something that's important that we need to hit, and that is that you can have cash flow, but if you don't have the baked-in muscle of confidence on how you create it, you're basically screwed even with the cash flow, because if it goes away, if something happens, if you've got a storage unit in Los Angeles and there's an earthquake and it goes away, and you go, okay, wait, I don't know how to do that. I don't remember how to do that because I had it somehow. That's the problem with not building the muscle. You atrophy. And so you've got to put energy into that muscle. It's why I said the first thing to do is educate yourself. Once you build that confidence muscle by doing something, by being a part of it, it's like martial arts that I teach. You have to actually continue to do it, or if you stop, the muscle goes away. It's our natural reaction. So the confidence is where the freedom lies. It's not just in the cash flow. So we need to make sure that we have the confidence muscle built too.
So Jonathan, I think you guys are opposite. So he's a 5th-degree black belt. You're a swing dancer.
I do have some martial arts training in the Shuri system. I can hang when it comes to taking a punch to the face. I'm good.
So Damion, you're a very interesting guy. I mean, most people will come on a podcast and they'll talk about one specific thing or one thing that they're doing, but it seems like you're encompassing a lot of different things. DamionLupo.com. I know that if you go to the website, you enter your email address. What happens after that?
I start giving you tools and ideas, and I start disrupting you. The questions that I'm asking are meant to be disruptive, so that the reason that you're there is because there's something missing, or there's something that you want that's different, and that starts with you asking questions. I don't believe, and I've spent over $1 million on personal development, people, Tony Robbins, mentors, programs. That the problem is most people don't realize that they have this inner guru. If they ask the right questions, you've got the stuff in you. My job is to keep asking you questions and pull that stuff out of you, and then help you build the confidence that you've got those answers, so that you're not always looking externally. And so that's what you get. You get a lot of this engagement. I'm going to give you ideas, and I'm going to give you structures. Like you mentioned, Dan Sullivan with Strategic Coach, he's got lots of great tools. Well, I do the same thing in that I develop these tools. I'm just a lot more hardcore about the numbers and the intense focus, where I use my martial arts training and blend it into the financial space, which is basically unique all by itself on the planet.
If you don't get your 10 times earnings, you got to do 50 push-ups. It's plain and simple.
That's it, man. It's straightforward.
But it's also very educational. You know, like for example, QRP. That's something that really no one probably knows about. Would you say the percentage of people in America know about this? Less than 1%?
1% would be a massive stretch. Right. I mean, 3 million people knowing what a QRP. Most people go, QRP? Is that like the SEC? Like, what are we talking about?
Right.
Nobody knows. They've heard of an IRA, but here's why we know what we know about because we're basically pounded by marketing. We know what an IRA is, we know what a 401k is, because these institutions make a lot of money making sure that it's front of mind. And we don't know what a QRP is because it takes all the money and power away from those institutions and we get to keep it. Why would they want you to know that? They're not going to teach you that, but I like that because it shifts the power into your hands.
Now, can if I'm a listener out there right now and I have a pretty good size 401k, can you convert that to a QRP?
Absolutely, and that's exactly what people are doing. They're shifting their money. So if you have a 401k or an IRA or a TSP, a thrift savings plan, like you're a government worker, any of those plans can be rolled over tax-free, penalty-free into a QRP. So the end result after a few weeks is you've got cash, all of your money in a checkbook. You're not paying taxes. You're not paying any fees to penalties or anything like that. You've just got access to this money, and now you're in charge, which is awesome for some people, Brian. It's not great for some people that don't want to take any responsibility. It's terrifying.
Well, yeah, I could definitely see kind of going right through your retirement pretty quickly.
Well, people do. I've seen people, and here's what they did. They got $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, and then they think, oh, if I just throw money at things, it'll work. Money is not the answer. You having intelligent action steps and feedback loops, and where people are giving you, they're telling you, here's what I see, and they're coaching you, guiding you, and being smart about your position sizing. There's a guy named Van Tharp that talks about this with trading. And you can't expose 50% of your portfolio to some deal that you've never done before. But people do this all the time, and they go, wait a second, I had $1 million, now I've got $8. What just happened? You got stupid, and your ego drove this thing right off a cliff.
Right, and you may not have enough time to actually do what you thought you were going to do. And, yeah, like you said, you can't just throw money at things. I mean, it just doesn't work.
No, it'll give you a lot of experience in, okay, this is how you lose $1 million. I mean, that's my first book, which is, if you want to see the worst designed book ever, it's called Maverick Mistakes in Real Estate Investing. I designed the cover on PowerPoint when I was in my 20s, and it's how I lost my first $1 million. And if for nothing else, just look at it and say, I'll never write a book and design a cover like that. But I mean, that's how you lose $1 million. You want to do it. That's what I did. And people, it's funny. The reviews on that thing are hysterical because people go, this guy's an idiot. I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you don't know what you're doing. You go out there, but I created $20 million. So who's the idiot? I made the mistakes and I got stronger. So
you fail forward, right? So you fail and you just
exactly.
fail quickly and you learn your lesson. I have plenty of lessons, and I recently came out with a book, Real Estate Riches, and get in the game basically, buy your first home and show you how to leverage assets all the way through your life. And I've had some setbacks for sure when I tried to flip a house, 2 houses actually, and I had no time for it and lost a bunch of money because you have to have time to understand what you do. It never happens, right? Yeah, right. Well, I know that I'm not going to do that again. But you talk about, you ask questions, right, and you disrupt, because everything about today is about disruption, right? There's disruption in every industry. I know that I own a mortgage company, and last week Amazon said they're getting in the mortgage business, so that's going to be some disruption, I would think, right? So hopefully it's not going to come to fruition. But you hear about this.
Did you say hopefully?
Hopefully. But the disruption is coming in all different areas, right? It's all different. Any industry you can think of is getting disrupted right now. So when you say you disrupt someone's life, is that the way you're looking at it? You're kind of disrupting that person as what they've done in the past, and because there's disruption in the future?
Yeah, and what you said is true. It's not a question of whether your industry is going to be disrupted. It's how soon and how completely. The largest category of jobs in the United States right now is truck drivers. That is going away. We're talking long haul. We're talking short haul. I mean, Elon's, just as an example, the guy that's disrupting and starting the ball rolling with these autonomous semis and things, it's going to take these jobs out of play for people. And that's a default for a lot of people. They're driving trucks. Well, guess what? That's going to be automated. You're going to have something that's safer, where your trucks can operate 22 hours a day instead of 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever the limits are. If you're in accounting, if you're in medicine, if you're in law, I mean, the blockchain with cryptocurrency is absolutely going to change law and legal, because once you've got these trusted smart contracts that have, if A happens, then B gets triggered, you don't need attorneys anymore. It's an automated system, and it's going to reduce, which I think is good. I don't think we need more attorneys. I think having really great attorneys that aren't just looking for easy prey to attack is better. These technologies are going to change things. So the point of disrupting you now is that you're getting to be in front of this thing. You're going to get to choose how you're going to go what direction versus chasing something when all of a sudden your industry is toast and you lose your work and you go, wait a second, artificial intelligence or Amazon. Amazon just took over my thing. They're taking over things that have a lot of fat in them, where there's too much. It's been for too long. People are just taking advantage of things and they're squeezing it, which is fine, but you better get ahead of it or you're going to get squeezed to death.
I mean, perfect. I mean, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, the most, he has the most money in the world, and he still doesn't show the profit. So how does that work?
That's called people are buying into the future impact that he's going to have, and he's setting up all these seeds. And this is y'all can do the same thing that Jeff's doing, in that if you see into the future far enough and you start planting seeds now, eventually the physical reality will catch up with the seeds, the internal processes, the vision that you have. You've got to be willing to look into the future. Most people are looking into next week and they're afraid, and they plan a vacation and that's their big vision for their life. So you got to look out there and realize everything's going to be different in 5 or 10 years. And then that's what he's doing. That's all he's doing, and he's getting paid really, really well for it.
I know it, and it's amazing. I mean, you'd rather just buy something through Amazon than go to the store, because why take an hour out of your day when you
Not only that, I'm sick of the poor customer service. You can click a button and you get exactly the color that you want, the size that you want, exactly what you want, and there's no excuses.
And something that I've noticed with Amazon, and this is a really key strategic advantage, if you will, for anybody that's in any type of business. There's a trust factor that is being disrupted inside of Amazon for a lot of the things that they have, because they're so focused on delivering things faster, cheaper for the customer. They're not protecting a lot of the vendors, and they're trying to fix this a bit. But you get a lot of things where somebody creates something, they put it on Amazon, and then it gets ripped off by these massive production facilities in China. And then the vendor that actually created the thing gets blown out by somebody at half price. And so you don't really know, are you getting authentic stuff? So the reason I bring this up, if you can focus, and if you will focus on trust and connection and authenticity, people will migrate towards that, even though we're going to Amazon because it's easy and it's fast and customer service and all this is in place. The truth is, if you lose the trust or the confidence, like I won't buy Apple equipment or batteries or certain things on Amazon ever, because I don't trust that I'm going to get the real thing. So I go direct and I'll pay a premium for it. A lot of people are moving in that direction because we want to connect with people, with reality, with the story, not just everything commoditized like a Walmart pickle jar.
Perfect example, when the fidget spinners are big, right? So everyone knew that everyone's searching for a fidget spinner. You have no idea where they're coming from.
Right.
The guy that invented that, I don't know if he has, got paid in all those, but I'm sure that China had a lot to do with those fidget spinners. So I mean, it's always
spinner.
Yeah, it's like always the buzzword. I still have no idea why those were so popular, but just a good example, I think. But Damion, this is great stuff. I mean, I'd if someone's listening out there and they want to know your stuff, they want to get involved, just tell them how to find you.
The best thing, okay, so if you want me, DamionLupo.com, come over, and I'm going to start delivering stuff, these tools and these ideas, and it's basically, you're essentially getting a coach in a box where I'm just going to ask you questions, and it'll trigger you to go off in different places and take your own path. If you want a copy of the QRP book that we've been talking about, if you go to Total Control Financial, that's the name of the company, just click on free book and I will mail you a copy of the book. It's my mission to free 1 million people from financial bondage is driven by the amount of people that will pay attention to the message and take control of their lives. This book is going to give a lot of you that tool, and it'll give you an idea of how you can start taking control of your money and stop abdicating responsibility to Wall Street. So just click on that. It's Total Control Financial is where you're going to get a copy of that book.
I'd just like to add, too, I mean, everyone listening right now is like, well, I'm doing great. My stock's doing great. I made 30% last year. The last 2 years, everything's great. I mean, I think you need to tell the people out there watching that things do change, right? And what goes up must come down. It might go upstairs, but it goes out the window, right, when you go down?
Yeah, that's actually a great description for how markets work. You go up the stairs and you go out the window, and we saw that in 2007, 2008. I'll give you an example of in 2006, I had 7 projects that all had a net $1 million profit booked to me. So I was sitting there thinking, okay, my $5 million in the bank is going to turn into $10 million in the bank. And within less than 18 months, it was around 12 months, I saw the writing on the wall. 18 months later, from the time I thought I was going to have another $5 million from these projects, they all went upside down by $1 million, and lost. Each one of them, I lost a personal $1 million, and it's because things change and they cycle. And I was too stupid and naive. I hadn't been through cycles. This cycle will hurt when it goes through its process. And if you think that your stocks are doing well, that's great. And they are for the moment. And the question is, what's going to happen when the Dow is at 10,000? Or when the real estate market changes and all of a sudden it's not going up like it has in these markets? Things cycle. And if you think of this as a one-way street, you are going to get run over by a freight train.
Well, I could tell everybody here right now, I got run over in 2008, and I don't want that to happen again.
No.
And really, what have I changed? Really not much, right? So why do you think it can't happen to you again? And, history does teach us, and I think that at the very least, I'm actually panically, I'm going to go to your website and sign up right away. Panic.
Well, it's collective delusion, Brian.
Right.
I mean, we look around, and so I live in an area where I look downstairs, and there's McLarens, and there's Ferraris, and there's a Bugatti that went by, and I go, well, everything is good. There's like $1 million cars floating around here, and there's a general vibe of abundance. Yeah, there's a lot of money flying around, just like there was in 2005, 2006. It feels good. There's a wealth effect that happens with Wall Street that trickles down into everything else. If the markets are doing good, then we go, oh, we can spend more money, and it continues to boom things. But everything is changing, and it cycles. So if you're doing the same thing you were doing 10 years ago, and you're not in a space where you can go, yeah, markets can drop by 50 or 60%, I'll be fine. You better start thinking about when that happens and what your life's going to look like, because it's going to change it.
Agreed. Like, perfect example. We had a meeting. We went to the Capitol Grill. It was a Monday night. Place was packed. It's like, wow, Capitol Grill on a Monday night. It doesn't seem right.
Right. You can smell it.
There's a lot of excess there,
Yep. The Capitol Grill effect. I remember back in, I think it was like 2005. Yeah, it was like 2005. I was sitting in a PF Chang's, and I see this kid, and he's kind of a hipster sort of kid, and which is fine, except he started talking about real estate with somebody he was with, and how they were going to make all this money. And I was just listening to the conversation, and I called one of my brokers, and I said, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of houses to sell. How quickly can you sell them? Yeah. Because when the taxi cab driver or whoever is giving you tips on how to make $1 million in whatever their real estate or stocks, I mean, we saw this in the tech run up in the late 90s. It's an exit queue. And right now, if you're not smart, if you just jumping on this speculator train and you're not actually strategic with smart people that have gray hair or no hair around you that have been through cycles, guess what? You're going to have an experience, and it's probably going to be a little painful.
This is great, Mr. Jonathan. So Mr. Jonathan wants to buy a double wide, and he just kind of wants to live off the land, right?
Yeah, that's my dream. Minimal.
Minimalist.
As minimal as possible. Damion, can you give me the name of that book and that website one more time? Yeah,
totalcontrolfinancial.com. The book is called The Total Control Financial Guide to the QRP. And you can get it on the site, or if you like Amazon, it's there. It's also available as a Kindle. So if you're a digital person and you like less clutter, I like the simplification. Here's a really powerful idea. It's called the blank slate principle. And if you'll take your life and really think about, take everything out of your life and then decide what you want to put in it, it's fascinating how little it'll weigh. But what we do is we have this legacy cost. I bring this up because people are carrying around unbelievable weight in their life, and it's expensive, and it's time consuming, and it sucks the energy. And if you can start with a blank slate and ask what you want to bring in, your life will get lighter, and you'll be able to adapt. And if you can't adapt because your life is really heavy, you're going to get killed because things are moving too fast. You're going to get run over. So it's a huge strategy in terms of just being able to be agile. You got to lighten your life.
What do you think about that, Jonathan?
Hell yeah. It makes me feel like such a loser.
No, man, I'm giving you.
I need to get my stuff together. I like it.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I mean, obviously, we're at the frothy levels of stock market. I mean, we believe frothy markets of real estate. No one really knows how long that's going to be. But so you have specific investment strategies once you get to know the person based on the questions that they ask? That you ask?
Yeah, we do. I mean, there's part of the process that I do with people, and there's a digital platform that's being launched in the second quarter of 2018 where you're going to be able to go through the entire process that I do with people one-on-one. And when I do a process with somebody one-on-one, it's typically a $40,000 a year process. This digital platform is going to give access to everybody on the planet, this whole process, this financial freedom process. And it's not just saying, okay, well, I'm going to watch my money in Mint and I'm going to see if I can buy a rental property. It goes way, way, way beyond that. And it's figuring out how to get you squeezing the squishy ball and lifting some weights so that you can start building the muscle around these different things. That part of that's going to mean you going and buying an ounce of silver. Why? Because it's something new and you're holding something you've never experienced before. It's these simple things, but it's somebody telling you, go do this thing. And you start to become aware, because I don't believe in this whole law of attraction with this secret and all this nonsense. You're not going to think really hard and have a bag of money hit you in the head from the sky. It's not going to happen. But
Damn it.
I know, and this is a big frustrating problem for people when they hear that. They go, but I thought that's the secret. No, that's the stupid. Here's what's the real. The real is there's a law of awareness, and everything is right in front of you. If you start to basically plant this thing in your reticular activator in your brain, the idea is you'll see the opportunities right in front of you. And if we start to get you to think about the stuff, it goes into your frontal lobe, like having an ounce of silver. Okay, so what am I doing with this thing? Why silver? It's something that gets you thinking about stuff, and then all of a sudden you're aware and you'll see opportunities everywhere. So that's how we're shifting people. It's these exercises to get them in the game.
Last question. What's your take on cryptocurrencies? Because obviously it's the big buzzword around here, and I heard there's up to 228 different cryptocurrencies right now.
We're close to 2,000.
2,000 cryptocurrencies. So, I know a lot of people that are kind of in the industry, they're touting it, but for example, if I went to go buy some cryptocurrencies on Coinbase, there's only 4 that they sell currently. So where do you see the opportunity in something like that?
Cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, every single person that's listening to this should have some crypto. It doesn't mean it can be $10, it could be $100. If you're confused and you seriously want to have some crypto and an experience and you can't figure it out, go to my site and I will help you get crypto. I'll give you some crypto. This is going to change money. It's going to change how we do commerce. 98% of these cryptos are going to go to zero. Majority of them, like 90+%, are basically scams. Not because you have something where somebody's trying to rip you off, although there are plenty of those. It's that people have an idea and they have no business. There's just it's a fast way to make a ton of money, like dogfood.com in 1999. How the hell is that going to work? But somebody made $1 billion doing it and launching it public. That's what's happened with the cryptos so far, that people have made fortunes, but they were really early. When they were the weirdos, they made a fortune. Going into things in cryptos right now and thinking you're going to make 27,000% is pretty unlikely. The likelihood is you're probably going to lose a majority of the ones you invest in. I think if you don't get involved in that, money's going to change like it did in 1944 or 1971. When those things happen, if you're not aware of what's going on underneath the surface, you're going to get hurt. Like when in the 40s, and in the 30s, when we switched from the gold connected, the gold backed dollars, when that happened originally, people lost like 50-60% of their purchasing power overnight by government decree. And then when the gold went away completely in the 70s, then all of a sudden we had fiat money. We're changing our money. Everybody's chasing this. The banks, the government, everybody's chasing it. You have to understand what's going on. And the bigger one is the blockchain. Blockchain is going to change how we connect with people and everything. Even in terms of tracking cows that end up as a hamburger at McDonald's, we are going to understand where our food comes from. It's going to change everything. You got to get into a space of understanding or you're going to get hurt.
All right, I lied. One more question. So out of those 2,000 or so cryptos, do you have the top 5 or top 3 or top 1 that you would say, this looks like it's legit? A little nugget for us.
Not saying Brian's going to buy any as soon as the show's over, but if you were to do it.
My suggestion, if you're going to get some crypto, is definitely get a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's because Ethereum is about the smart contract. There's a lot of technologies that are being built on the backbone of Ethereum. And Bitcoin is sort of the gold standard. It's a slow one. It takes a lot of energy to mine when it's actually produced but it's also, it's the most well-known, and it's going to continue to evolve, the programming and things behind it. So I would start with those two. There's tons. I've probably got 40 different ones, and I might have a few $100s in a lot of them because I'm curious, like Salt is this one, and that helps with lending and using cryptos as the collateral for lending. I'm curious about it. If I'm curious about something, I put money into it because it forces me to go deeper in terms of paying attention.
Right.
So it might be a good idea or it might be a bad idea. I have no idea. But if you can get it on Coinbase, it creates a simplicity around getting involved in the game. And so a little bit of Bitcoin and Ethereum would be a great way to start. Great.
Well, this is a fascinating show. You got my mind racing, and that's usually. So I get off one of these shows. It's right now I'm going right to my laptop, seeing what I can do. But I hope everyone out there listening feels the same way. And I would definitely recommend going to see Damion Lupo at DamionLupo.com. And I know that he mentioned another site to get his free book. So with that being said, Jonathan.
There's no such thing.
As easy money.
as easy money.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.